just a really brief introduction to E4QI for those of you who might not have been to an Evidence for Quality Improvement Spotlight before. So the Spotlight session is all about giving trusts and healthcare organisations an opportunity to showcase their quality improvement journey. And as I say, today it's Somerset Foundation Trust who will be showcasing their work. The next session the first session for 2023 will be in February, which will be showcasing the work of the Kidney Quality Improvement Partnership. So we've got that one to look forward to. Okay, I'm going to hand over now to Greg and the improvement team at Somerset FT.
Hi everybody, so I'm Greg Cobb. I'm the Deputy Director for Improvement Research and Development at SFT. So just to start off, just that we tell you a little bit about the Trust and a little bit about Somerset if you're not familiar with it. So Somerset is a very rural county. It's got a population of around 580,000 spread over a wide geographical area. We've got some largish towns, Taunton and Bridgewater, Yeovil being our biggest ones. But we've also got lots and lots of small, quite isolated communities. Our geography can be quite challenging in that sense. For the Trust, so if I take you back and just say a little bit about how Somerset Foundation Trust came about. So started off as a single acute in Taunton, Musgrove Park Hospital. We then merged with our community and mental health provider and are now in the process of merging with the other acute in Somerset, so Taunton and Yeovil. And along the way, we've picked up about 20% of primary care in Somerset that we now look after as well. So we are the only provider at scale, I believe, in the country that actually has the full gamut of acute community mental health and primary care. I think the only other one that's similar in England, at any rate, is the Isle of Wight. On top of that, we're in the context of being an integrated care system, and we're fortunate, I believe, in that we're the simplest integrated care system in the country as well. So we've got one main NHS provider, which is Somerset FT. We're shortly going to have a single unitary authority. And as we formed, I also only had one CCG, which is now the ICB. So that's a little bit about Somerset Foundation Trust and Somerset, and I'll pass you on to Marie.
Hi, so my name is Marie Little. I'm a Senior Improvement Advisor. I've worked in the NHS for over 10 years, but I have been working supporting change for longer. This is our 7 steps framework, and it's based on the model for improvement. So this framework is used for QI in Somerset and is being spread across our integrated care system. And we're going to use this framework to actually tell our story today. So QI can be an acquired taste. It takes commitment, time and patience. And when I first heard of QI, it really resonated with how I believe change should work. I was a business process analyst at the time, and I got myself into a position to learn more. I started with believing it was worthwhile, and because I enjoyed it and I found it really fulfilling, I became intrinsically motivated. So the improvement team had been around for a long time, but it really started to take shape when Mike Warburn, a consultant anaesthetist, became our improvement lead. A respected clinician with influence who had been lucky enough to attend IHI training in Harvard, and Greg became our improvement manager, receiving his IHI training in Horsham. We started with 4 members, some already involved in improvement and others keen to get involved, and we all had the title of project manager, including me. So we attended the IHI Safety Officer course, learning about the framework for clinical excellence in Exeter in 2016, and we were sponsored by a few execs who attended part of the course. We all joked about where we'd received training, and we were all quite put out that we couldn't go to America. So our roles changed to improvement advisor, which many of us we just didn't feel comfortable with because we were used to having active roles in projects. An advisor just didn't sound the same. However, after reading the improvement guide written by G. Langley, R. Moen, K&T Nolan, C. Norman and L. Provost, I really started to understand the vision for our team. It always felt like I'd been waiting for something to happen, for improvement to actually kick off. And after reading this, I became really excited as my improvement team journey had really begun. Our team expanded over time from 3.8 whole-time equivalents to 24.3, which it presently is today, including a whole range of other disciplines to complement QI. I'll now pass you back to Greg.
So I'll take you back to the problem that we were looking to solve with the creation of the team. And to do that, I need to take you back to when we were a single acute trust. So at the time, I was a directorate manager, and it was around the time that the financial crisis hit. And as a directorate manager, I was getting increasingly frustrated that the size of the challenge that we were facing was increasing exponentially year on year. Targets were doubling. And this was for both our clinical sustainability and financial sustainability. Even though the challenge was increasing exponentially, as a trust, we were doing the same things that we'd always done, and it just didn't seem proportional to the challenge. At the same time, as Marie said, meanwhile, Mike Walburn had been trained in quality improvement, and we had quality improvement projects running in a few small areas within the trust. Mike was becoming increasingly frustrated that there was this methodology that had a better evidence base than anything else for delivering sustainable change, but we just weren't using it widely across the organisation. Purely by chance, on a leadership development course, Mike and I were paired together, which is where we met, on a coaching, to do some coaching. We shared each other's frustrations and decided that we would keep meeting and we would try to do something about it. So over the next series of months, we met in Costa Coffee and we made some plans for lobbying the organisation for the creation of the improvement team. We were successful in this, and the team, as Marie said, was created with about 3.8 of us when we started. We operated successfully for about 9 months, supporting a variety of projects across the organisation, but the organisation had gone too far, unfortunately, and we went into financial turnaround. Financial turnaround taught us a lot as an organisation. We had a series of management consultancies coming in, doing various pieces of work. And frankly, they had very, very high promises about what they would deliver, a very, very high cost. But at the end of the period that they were with us, the results that were delivered were quite poor. They were really quite weak. As we came out of financial turnaround, our board needed to make a decision. They recognised that they were going to need to invest in some capacity for the organisation to keep its head above water, to manage change. And we put the option before them. They could either continue to use the management consultancies, which they hadn't had the greatest experience of, or they could invest in a larger team for less money and invest in an internal team, which is what they chose to do. And the team was created. We were given a significant investment, and our team went up to around 24. I'll hand you back to Marie.
So we didn't have a defined aim when we started, but we all knew that we wanted to empower staff to use QI to make improvements for patients and themselves. So we started with the model for improvement, but through learning from one consultancy, we started to understand why changes never stuck, as we didn't have the learning culture and communications in place to sustain change. We combined the model of improvement with our learning, which was later simplified into our 7 steps framework to make QI simpler and more accessible. In true QI style, we tested it, receiving great feedback and made adjustments. For quite a while, the disciplines of the team were very separate. but over time we've successfully combined most disciplines, including benefits, creating a blended workbook to record progress and a Jamboard that allows collaboration and facilitates discussions with teams. Some members of our team also, including me, attended the Billings Institute Spread Academy, adapting the tools to our local context and embedding them within our framework. We have research and evidence who created evidence for QI and are currently working on how we enable and embed service user involvement in QI projects, as we're good in some areas but not in others. As a multidisciplinary team, we developed our vision and aim, as you can see on the slide, but we're looking to revisit this in January and make it more measurable, including our new Yeovil colleagues from our soon-to-be merged trust. Pass you back to Greg.
So in terms of measures for the team, clearly there was going to be a very challenging task about how do you measure the success of the team? How do you provide assurance to the board that the investment was worthwhile? And although we could capture benefits on a project basis, how do you measure the changing culture, which was what we were trying to achieve? This problem was exacerbated when we merged with the Community Mental Health Trust. We made the decision that we would keep the team the same size and spread across both organisations, although the organisation had doubled, more than doubled, in terms of its numbers. The way we did that was when we were working with just the single acute, we were more hands-on or much more closely aligned to projects, and we were following them through their life cycle. The model that we changed to was one of much more coaching support and a much more light touch approach so that we could scale across the larger organisation. Secondly, the problem of trying to measure the overall impact of the team was part of the whole point of the team was that we would give people the capability to run projects themselves. So they would run projects, and there were projects running that are entirely independent of the team for people who have gone through the training and have had the support. So how do you measure the impact of potentially thousands of small projects spread right across what is a very large organisation? So in terms of how the board gets this assurance, there are three main ways that happens. Firstly, is simply what's the alternative? So if you don't invest in a team that's spreading an evidence-based methodology across your organisation, the alternative is that you leave it to chance how projects are operated and hope that teams find an effective method themselves. Secondly is, what do the colleagues say? What does the organisation say about the team and the usefulness of QI? One of our non-executive directors, who also chairs our finance committee, has said that there isn't a board that goes by where QI or the improvement team isn't referenced about 2 or 3 times. And from our execs and non-execs, that's definitely one of the key ways in which they're confident that the organisation is finding what we're doing useful. And then finally, there's external reviews. So the CQC have listed the improvement culture in Somerset FT as part of its outstanding practice. We've also had some other things, some internal audits, which has picked up the QI process, the 7-step process that we follow, as exemplary, and you've used it to demonstrate to other areas. So the combination of those three are how the board get their assurance, even though we can't directly numerically measure all of the benefits that we're providing. So I'll hand you over to Sarah now.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. So I'm going to pick up our improvement journey at the point the team expanded, and I wanted to become an improvement advisor to help make proactive improvements rather than focusing on identifying gaps and problems, but without the tools to solve them. So I've been in the improvement team for nearly 6 years, since March 2017. And from the word go, we've been adapting and improving as a team. The expansion from the original handful of team members to a large team of blended disciplines was our first challenge. There was much to learn about how to bring in relevant expertise at the right moment, and we actually mapped it out using process mapping and how to communicate in an agile and effective way. Huddles and huddle boards have always been a key way of interacting as a team and in sub-teams. So we've learned to make huddles more focused, effective and inclusive through improving the relevance of the content, making them more interactive and responding to feedback. So the slide you're seeing at the moment is an example of our whole team huddle board. It's a virtual board, and our QI training huddle is another good example of this way of communicating. So from September 2019, the improvement team expanded its remit from our acute site, Musgrove Park Hospital, where we were all based, to include Somerset's community and mental health services. The main impacts that we felt were increased potential for travel around the county and an increased breadth of work spanning a much broader range of services. This was a big change for those of us who have been based at Musgrove for many years and had no experience of community and mental health services. We used a common sense approach to reduce excessive commutes by working with departments falling close to our home addresses where that was appropriate. And we began to see the potential for hot desking and blended home working. In response to the wider range of work, our improvement boards that we had set up had to be modified to include all services under broader programmes of work. So in March 2020, we were all asked to work very differently. Some of the team were redeployed to help with the NHS response to the pandemic, while others continued in their core roles, but working remotely. Our huddles became virtual using various online whiteboards. And we've learned that the platform and the internet connection can help or hinder virtual working, but the most fundamental underlying foundation goes back to how we interact as a team. So in 2022, we've expanded our remit still further. So this now includes Somerset's other acute provider, Yeovil District Hospital, and our system partners such as the County Council. Our official base is now within Somerset's County Hall. So this is shown on the slide just to show you the difference in environment. And we share this hot desking space with other members of central services such as finance and digital and County Council colleagues. We work predominantly from home, but we use County Hall to undertake face-to-face meetings, and we need to shadow each other to learn new processes and work in our respective disciplines. The default now for all meetings is Microsoft Teams, so it doesn't make sense to be in an open plan hot desking office during the day when we're all mostly in separate meetings. So this means that we've largely lost the ability to just drop into departments and have corridor conversations. However, given the unrelenting operational pressures and the need for sustainable working, there is a silver lining. We're adapting to the need to protect our operational colleagues from layering on extra work by having shorter meetings, we're using less paperwork, and we've got smarter tools where some information can be transferred from one place to another. And in the past, networking and learning from other organisations would often have meant resource-intensive physical trips. But now that we're utilising virtual platforms, we can readily invite anyone from anywhere to collaborate with us. So along with the need to work in different places, we also need to capture our work differently. So to this end, we now have a service register, which is an Excel spreadsheet, where all requests for improvement team help are recorded. We no longer work under improvement boards. Instead, 80% of our work is raising improvement capability through training and coaching. And the remainder is working alongside project teams to facilitate project work. All of this is logged on our register, so we get an overall visibility of what we're working on. And this aids decision making about our team's capacity. It helps us join up related pieces of work. And we have a weekly triage meeting where new requests are assessed and channeled to the appropriate person or discipline. This can be considered an adaptation of a spreadsheet of changes that we captured during the pandemic. The latter was set up in order to inform trust management of all the changes that our operational teams had made, critically which were beneficial and should be maintained and which should remain temporary. Change fatigue is a well-known phrase, and we are certainly at risk of that due to the number of adaptations that we've had to make. However, using improvement methodology to understand change has made it bearable. Being able to measure whether various changes are improvements helps maintain motivation with worthwhile change and lets us know when it's safe to stop doing things that are not beneficial. Practical examples of this include using feedback to improve our training offers, being able to quantify the breadth of work that we're supporting and knowing if this is appropriately distributed, and seeing how many staff we've supported to raise their capability to improve their services. So we learnt that organising projects under improvement boards required a lot of effort to maintain the board infrastructure. The meetings were a select group of senior members, whereas our service register now facilitates an open door approach to improvement from anyone in the organisation. The potential drawback is that we have many broad-ranging improvement projects running, and we get about 500 requests for support per year. So we try to mitigate this by using the service register to understand our capacity, being very clear about what level of support we provide each request, and maintaining a focus on spreading capability rather than doing for. So we're now able to spend much more time on coaching individuals and project teams to use QI as a framework for their projects. In short, it is not about us, it's about them, our colleagues who want to improve their services.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Rexworthy, and I'm an improvement facilitator. And I'm just going to introduce you to just a couple of the training packages that we deliver. So a key strategy for Spread was developing a suite of comprehensive training packages to ensure that all abilities and staff groups could learn about QI. The first training package that the team developed and delivered to colleagues was the Bronze. So the training was always aimed at those with either little to no knowledge of QI or those needing a bit of a refresher. And it was designed to give colleagues the basic skills and knowledge that they would need to make the small improvements in their areas of work. Originally, this was delivered in a traditional face-to-face format running over a half day, but in March 2020, the team needed to adapt to the constraints of COVID and also to better serve our colleagues who are spread out over a large geographical area. After about 4 months of development in September 2020, a virtual Bronze training package was ready to test, and this became the standard format in April 21. So we'd already been working with our system colleagues to share our training resources. However, with our merger with Yeovil, this was stepped up and we started welcoming more and more of our YDH colleagues to join our training sessions since April this year. And whilst now returning to more and more face-to-face Bronze sessions where possible, we are also currently working on a self-directed version. So this will be available to work through in a module format with quizzes and evaluations. Benefits of this is that staff will be able to do it at their own convenience and they won't need to find 3.5-hour slots, but they can fit the training in around their own work commitments. So we also recognise that there was a gap in our colleagues' understanding of what we did as a team and also what improvement was. And so Introduction to Improvement was developed to do this and to help spark an interest in QI and also perhaps to attract more into doing the Bronze further down the line. And this has proved to be extremely popular. and a really useful tool. With the constraints on staff time, this is a much shorter presentation, and it runs over about 20 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on sort of how large group is and things. And it's given us a way to introduce us as a team and the benefits of using improvement. And overall feedback has been really good for both of the formats of the training so far. And as you can see on the slide, there are a couple of examples of that feedback as well.
Thanks, Lucy. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea, and I'm an improvement advisor in the improvement team here at Somerset. So I've been in the NHS for over 25 years, so I've seen lots of change, but frustratingly, it wasn't always very effective. So 6 years ago, I was really excited for the opportunity to join a team that promised to deliver real meaningful change for our colleagues using a QI methodology. So in this slide, I want to share with you the development of our silver and gold QI packages. Silver was first developed in November 2021 with our SQIF colleagues, the Somerset QI faculty, and in association with the Southwest Academic Health Science Network. And it was first tested with primary care and community groups who were working with care homes. Since then, the training's undergone a number of PDSA cycles to make sure that it's suitable for anybody who works across the health and social care system in Somerset. So the Silver programme consists of 4 half-days across 2 months. The sessions are delivered virtually via Teams. Colleagues bring along a small or medium-sized departmental problem that they can expect to complete within 2 to 3 months. They complete the fun and interactive virtual training as a project team, and it's usually between 3 and 6 people per project team. And they do this training alongside other project teams, so we usually at the same time train about 3 to 5 teams. So that's about 15 to 25 colleagues per cohort. Each of the 4 sessions is a mix of generic learning, so that's about 60 to 70% of the time, and that's delivered to the whole group. And then about 30 to 40% of the remaining time consists of breakout rooms, and this is where the individual teams have the opportunity to practice the QI tools to progress their own project. And these breakout sessions are supported by a designated QI coach who also support the teams in between their Silver QI sessions. Colleagues sign up to Silver through a variety of routes. Increasingly, some have already heard about Silver from other colleagues who have been through the programme and recommend the training for their project, which is great. Others contact the improvement team directly for support, and as Sarah outlined earlier, their request is triaged via our register and then considered as appropriate for the Silver training. For others, they've already completed the bronze training, although it's not mandatory to do that previous lower level training to come on to Silver. And they're people who want to continue their QI journey, so they'll identify an improvement project within their area so that they can complete the Silver. So over 100 colleagues have already been through the Silver programme, and it's really popular, and the next 2 cohorts are already fully booked, with the next available sessions in May 2023. Colleagues tell us that it's really useful to follow the steps over the 2 months, as they often are able to apply their learning directly to the project because it's usually following a similar timeline to the training. Others have commented that having the permission to have the dedicated 4 half-hour days to work as a team has been critical to enable their project to gain traction. And others have commented that the 7 steps provides a really essential structure to understand what they need to do. Okay, so now on to gold. A key challenge was to develop a package to equip colleagues with advanced improvement skills, not only to lead and deliver their own improvement projects, but to coach others in improvement too. So we actually started to develop this before Silver because we wanted to get more people who were in leadership positions to become QI champions as soon as possible. Whilst bronze is a one-off session and Silver is virtually delivered over 4 half days across a few weeks, Gold is delivered face-to-face at an off-site location over 6 full days and across several months. There's a robust application and triage process as the programme requires much more commitment. The Gold days can be intense learning, so we do make them as fun and interactive as possible. We follow an approach of a mix of front-led learning and then group table exercises to enable real hands-on practice with the QI tools and methodology so that people can apply the learning immediately to their own projects. Our Gold training attendees, who are usually leaders within their organisation, work on a more complex and current problem, either across a single or multiple organisations, applying the 7 steps of QI and are supported by a dedicated QI coach. Coaches meet with the Gold teams at regular intervals between the full day sessions to support learning and progress. We initially started work on the Gold package in the autumn of 2019. Because the sessions need to be delivered face-to-face, the pandemic had put a bit of a dampener on our Gold session planning, but this year we've seen 26 colleagues complete the 6-day programme and another 20 are starting in January 23. Wow, that's next month. So the number of colleagues trained in Gold is obviously lower than our other training because it's delivered over a period of many months. But behind that data is a number of people in the Gold attendees' own teams to whom they also coach QI as they themselves learn as well. Gold can be a heavy resource on the QI team, so we're planning to adapt how we select and run the training days so that we can maximise attendance of the sessions. Thank you. Over to Amy.
Thanks, Andrea. Hi, everyone. My name's Amy Owen, and I just wanted to share my own experience of the improvement team. So just a little bit of background about me. I joined the Trust 14 years ago when I was 17 as an apprentice in business and administration. Once I completed that, I then carried out various admin roles across different departments in Musgrove Park Hospital. And then in 2016, I moved to what was Somerset Partnership before we merged, where I worked as a personal assistant to a psychiatrist in learning disabilities. I enjoyed all the admin roles, but I really fancied a bit of a change, although I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I then undertook a degree in business management as this covered various subjects. And this actually sparked an interest in quality improvement and change management, as it was one of the modules that we studied. I found it really fascinating, and I was especially interested in how those small changes can actually make a massive impact. So often people in more senior roles are unable to see all the opportunities for improvement, and it's the individuals in various different roles in a department who are the real subject matter experts. And then they need to feel empowered to be able to make those improvements. I decided this was something I wanted to be part of, and I was really keen to stay working in the NHS as it's something I feel really passionate about. Lo and behold, I saw a role advertised in the improvement team as a process design analyst, and I jumped at the opportunity and applied. Thankfully, I was successful, and then I joined the team as a process design analyst at the beginning of 2020. The role was primarily focused on writing and designing process maps, but we actually quickly became more involved in delivering the bronze training and also started to work more closely with the IAs, supporting teams in undertaking PDSAs to test their ideas. It was felt that the job title didn't quite describe our role anymore, and then we changed it to improvement facilitator as we felt this was more transparent for teams that we work with, whilst encompassing the variety of support that we can provide. I absolutely loved working with teams to look for inefficiencies and help them focus on what their problems were and redesign their processes. However, I personally wanted to progress and learn even more and wanted to help coach and guide teams through their entire projects. There's a clear development pathway between being an improvement facilitator and an improvement advisor, and after raising my interest with my manager, we looked at opportunities for me to shadow and work alongside the improvement advisors to develop my knowledge. In August this year, I was lucky enough to become an improvement advisor. I'm really enjoying the new challenge of coaching teams and applying our 7-step methodology to different scenarios, whilst expanding my knowledge and helping people realise just how simple and fun improvement can be. A standout moment for me is becoming the Silver training lead. Alongside our fantastic admin support, I run the Silver training, ensuring that we can get as many teams as possible on each cohort with a dedicated coach. The teams come to the training with a problem they want to work on, and with a mixture of theory, scenario-based and interactive learning, they're given the opportunity to focus on the practical application to their problem. I find it really inspiring to speak to colleagues from across the Somerset health and social care system and hear about what improvements they want to make, and then see this come to life throughout the training. So here we've got some of our top tips, and I'll give you a moment to read them. We actually have a video that we'd like to play you now. So you've heard our story from our perspective, but now hear it from our colleagues. Whilst we play the video, please put any top tips you have in the chat, if you have any, so that we can share our learning.
When you're doing clinical practice, you notice things along the way, some things that you think that should be different, should be changed, could be better. And with the QI, you can actually take those small ideas and make it into a project, and from that project have significant changes. Certainly as a nurse, it's significant because it makes sure that we pay attention to the things we notice.
For me, it is a way of thinking. When working with patients, there are often times where I think, why do we still do it like this? Quality improvement provides a structure to explore these problems or new ideas, no matter how big or small that might be.
At first, however, I have to say, I found it quite challenging as there was so much operational work to do. I felt a bit frustrated that I was sat around talking about things for an hour instead of actioning things. I didn't quite understand the benefits of spending time understanding the problem. Now I reflect on myself and realise how much a year's worth of QI knowledge and development has changed the way I look at my work, not just the project work, but also team building, creating better person-centred care, understanding the needs of the service, the staff and the patients, and the continual enhancement and improvement of both D2A and myself.
I also think we need to nurture more colleagues to become confident in leading change within their own service. This will give us the best environment for improving outcomes and the service experience for the people of Somerset. And it will also help us together to improve the overall health of the population, which is clearly what we're all here for.
Back to me again. So thank you everybody for coming along and listening to our story today. Just a bit of reflection from myself. I think it's very rare that you get the opportunity to actually take time to think and reflect on what you've achieved as a team. And this spotlight has been a really good opportunity to do that. So I would really encourage people to do it as well. We've got about just under 20 minutes left for questions. So I'd like to open it up now. If people would like to ask questions or share any reflections or observations, now is the time to do so. I was just going to have a look at some of those top tips as well that were coming in. While people are thinking of questions, we don't have any yet, do we? No, I won't. Greg, if you could reflect and and think about over the last, throughout this journey, is there one thing, is there a nugget, if you like, one thing that makes you really proud? And conversely, is there something, what would be the biggest piece of learning? And if you were to do it again, you might do differently?
So I suppose that one of the points that stands out, and there have been many points of great pride as we've gone through this, but I suppose one of the moments that stands out for me was I was in a meeting with the senior clinical and managerial team for the organisation, and a conversation broke out following thorough, really well reasoned out QI principles. It was about QI. It was about how we tackled a series of problems using QI. And I wasn't involved in the conversation at all. I was just in the room and it was happening all around. And I guess that was one of the first times that I really saw that it was getting out there and that people were getting it and that people were understanding it. And it didn't need us anymore to support every conversation. So that was a real moment of pride. In terms of learning, there's been lots. It's been very difficult along the way at times with the organisation's understanding of what we do, our understanding of what we do. And when we started, we were absolutely paranoid about trying to prove our worth and trying to follow everything through in a great deal of detail. And we probably needed to start with that. But I guess one of my key reflections and learning along the way is if you're going to do this at scale, you can't hold on to it too tightly. You have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable, and actually you have to have a bit of faith that by people doing this, following the process, you're going to get good results. If you feel you have to try to demonstrate and evidence every tiny little thing that you do, what you do will only ever be small.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask anyone in the team? I'm just going to go back and have another look. So developing a common language of improvement. Oh, we have a question. Claire, sorry. Let's get your question.
Not so much a question, just completely agree with everything you've just said. Even trying to get people to understand what improvement is and using a structured approach. Even when you read the literature, it's so woolly, it's so different, depends on what you read. And I've put in there exactly reiterating what you said kind of before you said it, but you said it around actually it's challenging. It's a really challenging field to work in, but it's brilliant. And I guess, one of my things is find people like yourselves who get it, to kind of come around and use your improvement approaches to overcome some of those challenges. But no, I 100%, and we're in that stage of, I'm quite ironically writing a paper to board at the minute about assurance that QI is improving patient safety and care. And it is about that having to prove, because we're not valued in the same way that say other job roles are. I'm a physio by background, and again, go back to COVID, go back to redeployment, you go straight into those clinical fields and people don't go, what, hang on a minute, actually there's huge value in our improvement specialists as well that could enhance some of the stuff. So just saying, I totally agree with you.
And
Thank you.
I think it's important as well as what is the alternative. So if you're not going to use an evidence-based approach, then what actually are you going to do? I know that was a powerful point for our board.
Don't know what evidence is though, sure. In so many ways. Patients, why are we here in the first place? Oh dear.
We've had a question. Sorry, I've interrupted. No, we've had a question come through on the chat. How do you promote your improvements across your organisation? This will help more engagement, I'm sure.
Shall I answer that one?
Yeah, please.
So in a number of ways. So we encourage everyone that we work with to present locally. So for throughout the whole team. We try not to hold very much centrally. So we don't govern the projects. We haven't got separate risk processes or governance processes around the projects. They all go through the local areas. And so as part of trying to spread the culture, we try to encourage people to use their existing forums in order to demonstrate what they're doing. So it becomes kind of a routine part of business as usual. As John says, word of mouth is a very powerful thing. We work in a great space that people get excited about their improvement projects and they want to talk about them. And so they do to their colleagues. That's another main way. And then we hold events from time to time. We do improvement grand rounds where teams go and they present the work that they've been doing. We support them a bit with the kind of form of it, and they run through how they've employed the 7-step process. And then there's things that go out in comms from time to time. But we try to get the language of QI used in as much as we can. So quite often in meetings where people are talking about how to approach a particular project, they'll reference other projects that have used the process as an example of how to tackle the new one. And that, as I said from my example, of what I was most proud of, is becoming more and more and more prevalent, which has also helped raising the profile.
Harley, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to follow on a bit from what Greg was saying around, I think at the beginning, it was probably quite a slog, and it'd be fair to say it was hard working, you know, promoting the improvement team out there. But the evidence suggests with our training, for example, we're a victim of our own success. Things are really taking traction now. All of our training sessions and modules are booked up and out. What we're finding is we need more. So I think, although it was slow to begin with, it really does seem to have picked up, and people are wanting now to do some QI involvement and are actively seeking it. That's all I wanted to say.
And I mean, I can add to that as well, as someone who goes out talking to teams. When the title came up as the revolution, I thought that was a really good. It really felt right, because it does feel like now we're doing all this capability building, that when you do go out and talk to teams, you do hear people talking about PDSA and driver diagrams, and I think, you know, that's something that's really changed in the last year or so, and it really does feel like people are starting to talk QI much more now, so they're sort of promoting it from within as well, which is really good.
What's interesting as well is, as we continuously adapt and learn from the experience that we're having with our teams, I think if we provide offers that meet their needs, they will come. And obviously things were drastically different when the pandemic hit, and a lot of stuff just had to stop. But now we're in a situation where the operational pressure is relentless and just continuous. But the interesting thing now is that we have adapted. We're trying to meet people where they are and deliver what they need. And so far, people are still coming. And we haven't gone back to that point where things ground to a halt in the early days of the pandemic. We're now rolling with it, and people are coming to us, and we're helping them in ways that seem to meet their needs. So that's really positive.
We were worried during the pandemic that everything would be so just get on and do it, and so operationally hectic that we wouldn't be required. But actually, demand training as well through the pandemic was really strong. Demand for the team was really strong. So again, as a marker of people finding it useful, people who have had experience of working with us before were very keen to get us involved in the panic pandemic planning.
Jonathan's just put a question in around, do you know, track conversion of training to running projects? I can actually answer that one, because we have recently started a project, looking at how many people go from our introduction into the bronze training. So they'll do the introduction and then sign up for bronze. And also how many people who attend our bronze training then go on to run a project or go on to further training. So we are looking at that as that's quite new, but we should have some data around that going forward. The surveys are literally going out now. Sorry, is that another question? Thank you. Some nice comments on there. Is there anything else anyone would like to talk about or ask? Thank you, Sheila. Good comment. No? I think we can safely say we've finished then. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for coming. We know how busy it is, and it's been great that you've come and joined us. So thank you very much for that.